menace to sobriety. Just a menace, just a menace. Just a menace.
Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Menace to Sobriety with your host with the most. I mean, I don't mean to boast, but it's me, Dan O'Reilly, aka Dapper Laughs. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Listen, man, I love it. I've been reading all the comments in the YouTube and trying to get back to as many of you as I can. I sit down on a Sunday and I start replying. So do always interact, and I'll try and get back to you. But loads of positivity, and yeah, man. As I say, that it's evolving organically, this podcast, into something really beautiful. Great stories, inspiring conversations, and more importantly, connection that we're sharing with you. And yeah, I'm always on the lookout for guests that have got great stories. So fire them into us and let me know, and maybe you could be on the podcast. This next guest I'm going to introduce again. I kind of know. I'm going to introduce you. I kind of know. We've bumped into each other a few times, and then I found out about a story and thought, brilliant. Let's get you on. Let's have a chat. Let's see if your sharing can help our audience. But before we get into it, John, how are you? Big shout out to our producer, John.
I'm doing good. We got rid of the little target thing that was on my face last time.
Oh, are you actually on the camera now?
I'm on camera now, yeah.
Wait, say hello to your fans out there.
Man, I got a double chin.
Oh, you only just noticed? You've not got a mirror at home?
No, it keeps breaking for some reason. Oh,
okay. It's great to see you, John.
Yeah, you too, man.
Okay, beautiful stuff. That's John.
Sorry, almost revealed our guest. It's all good.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, all right. Without further ado, this is a bit all over the place today, but I love it. Welcome to the stage, Anna Jasper. Hello.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Let's make sure we keep you nice and close to the mic. This mic we've had to use this water to stop this mic moving because it's creeping towards you. But
it's show business.
It is. This is it. How are you?
I'm good. Yes, good. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, how
good.
are you?
I'm good. We kind of know each other, don't we?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had probably a cumulative, maybe half hour
conversation.
Talking so far.
Yeah. We bumped into each other first off at an event that I'm with a company I'm associated with.
Yeah.
And you were a guest at the event, and we kind of had a little chat there. I think your friend actually collared me that night.
I'd asked her to.
Oh, really?
She already knew you. I said, "Oh, can you introduce me, please?"
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And she said, "Oh my God, Anna's got this amazing story. She's sober." Because we'd spoken, and I didn't realise that you were sober. I think me and you were the only sober people at that event.
Yes.
So I said, yeah, send me more info, and I'll pass it over to the illustrious producer, John, and he helps me pick the guests, and he obviously thought you were interesting enough to come on, which was
thanks,
good.
John.
Oh, and yeah, man. So here you are, and but since then, weirdly, I saw you on set
on your film,
on the film,
yes.
That's right. And then at an event that I'd done the other night, which was wicked, wasn't it? In mindset maintenance.
It was amazing. Yeah, really good. I saw that you were coming to Portsmouth, which is my hometown.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's literally why I popped along.
Brilliant.
I didn't know anything about it until you'd put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was, very interesting, very powerful. A lot of the stories from everybody there, and quite astonishing how brave people can be. Just putting it all out there for everyone.
Well, you're being brave now.
I'm going to try.
Coming on the podcast. So you wanted to share your story. How come you wanted to share?
Because I think it is important to share these things, mainly because you could help somebody that's going through something right now.
Yeah.
And also I like to try and highlight the fact that going through stuff is so normal.
Yeah.
It's more normal than not going through stuff. And
Yeah.
there's still so much stigma and silence around everything. Whereas we've all got a story of some sort. And I just think we need to make it more normal to be not normal,
Yeah, I love that. And also for me, it's like this I always say this, but this podcast kind of started off with celebrities and then authors, psychiatrists and all this jazz. And where it's kind of taken me now, is like what I think are just relatable people, which is just so much easier for the audience to connect with, and also different demographics. So like young lads, like I had a personal trainer, we had a scaffolder, older, maturer women, and now we've got like a younger lady like yourself. And I just think that this sort of landscape that shows that the problems that we discuss on here is kind of like
Universal.
Everywhere. Universal, yeah.
And that's what I said to you, I think, when I first met you. I was like, your podcast has got a lot of men on it at the moment.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in a female point of view?
Yeah. And I was like, no, not women. They are the
women.
cause. That's the reason I drink most of the time is because of my wife. No, I'm joking. She did drive me to drink and drugs many times. Shout out to Shelley. I'm only joking. I love you. All right, cool. Well, look, listen, I like to start the podcast by rewinding all the way back to give the audience some context about your story. So tell me about what your childhood was like and your first sort of experience in all of this.
Childhood was, I would say, mainly lonely. Both my parents were, I'd say, workaholics.
Okay.
My dad worked away in London during the week, so I was only home weekends. And my mum put herself through uni, and then herself became quite a workaholic. And so me and my brother, I wouldn't say brought up ourselves, but we were pretty much always on our own.
Yeah.
So, and he was very popular. I was the opposite. I was very introverted, the weird kid,
Right.
So I was just very lonely. And I think at about 11, my parents split,
Right.
which sent me a bit depressed and very upset. And I was 12, I believe, when I first drank anything, and got drunk and passed out. So right from the very off, I had a very bad and negative relationship with alcohol.
Can you remember where it was and what?
Yeah.
And also, could you talk me through why do you think alcohol appealed to you? I mean, not just from wanting to get wasted, because obviously you were going through stuff, but what had you seen alcohol was leading up to that?
Okay, so leading up to that, both my parents were heavy drinkers. And so I'd always seen them drink daily. It didn't really ever affect either of them. So my mum magically never got hangovers. I don't think my dad did either. And it was just very much a social thing. They were very social people. So we had lots of house parties where everybody was just getting drunk all the time. So I think I'd always seen it as a fun thing. I think, as far as I know, I've just always had that addict component in me anyway. And before alcohol, was addicted to food. I used that as my friend, I think, because I was so lonely all the time. I used to just eat a lot, and that caused a lot of up and down weight issues and eating disorders and stuff throughout my life. And then with the alcohol, when I was 12, where my parents had split, we went over to France to stay with a friend. And it was Christmas time, so
everyone was drinking.
Yeah, and so I stole a bottle of cider, 2%, woo. But basically,
enough.
Yeah, when you're 12, yeah, and I drank the whole 2 litres, and then just ended up passing out.
Where did you take the bottle of cider?
So they lived on a sort of farm, and they had a big old football field out the back, and the boys, my brother, and then there were 5 lads in that family, and they were all out on the football field playing football. And I was just sat watching on the side, drinking, and that was that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what did you get from that? How did that feel? And do you think that feeling stuck with you?
Yeah, I think the feeling was that my emotions dulled. You could feel them, taking a massive backseat.
Yeah.
And sort of became numb. So while I'd been really upset and depressed about my dad leaving us and everything, and then having all of that sort of recede at last, just for a little bit of relief for a little while, I guess I didn't think of it that way back then.
It became a coping mechanism.
Definitely, yeah. And then I think where I was still so lonely, going through teenage years and struggling and not knowing how to process emotions or anything, the alcohol and later drugs and whatever became...
Your friend.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what the crazy thing is? It's like everyone that comes on, there's such a similar sort of turn of events. And before we move on to where your story goes, I just want to, because I always kind of skim past this bit, but I just want to sort of sit on it for a second. So my mum and dad broke up, but I was really, really young. I was 2-3 years old. And my sister, she was a couple of years older than me, but she really felt the brunt of the divorce. It was a really messy divorce as well. But I never really felt like pain from it, because by the time I was whoever I was, I mean, I can't remember many years up until my memory starts when I'm really older, 7, 8, because so much crazy gone on. But I never felt like a sadness because of a change of situation. I always kind of knew, you know, me and my mum and my sister were on our own, and my dad was whatever, and we could see him when we could see him. So, because this is, so many people go through this. How does that, what was the feeling from your, what I'm trying to, I guess, find out is, how did that impact you, the divorce? Like, what were you feeling, and how did that make you, did it sort of emphasize even more that you were on your own?
Yeah, and I think I sort of felt unwanted, unloved, rejected by my dad because
He'd left.
He left everybody, didn't he? But I also then found out it was because he'd been having an affair.
Right.
So it's like he chose someone else, not you, not me, you know?
Yeah.
Just rejected, I think.
So, and do you think that, did it affect you more than your brother?
I would say so, because I'm, in their words, a very sensitive, emotional person. It definitely did affect him. And I remember one memory, my mum was too upset to deal with me, so she said, go speak to your brother about it. And I went in and said, oh, mum told me to come talk to you. Can we talk about it? And he was like, no, absolutely not. Go away. And so I was just bounced from one to the next, and then just alone. And I didn't try after that. I didn't reach out again after that. So that was his way of coping with it on his own. He wanted to.
Yeah, that's how us men cope, really. We'd much rather, like, do you know what, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. Whereas you want to find answers. Yeah,
and especially with somebody else that's going through it or can sympathise, it's nice to be able to share that with them. And I don't blame him. We were young. Like, it's not a thing between us, but it just emphasised that I was just alone.
Is there more your father could have done with you, do you think, growing up? I'm just thinking from a perspective here. I don't want to pull in too much into your life, but I always think of my listeners, or the listeners and of the podcast, and my mind always goes to us men that are making mistakes, right? Because I really feel what this podcast has been for me, just like shedding all my mistakes out and trying to work my way through the shame and guilt, and, you know, love myself again, which I feel like I am, by the way. But there's lads out there that may have cheated or left their families for other women and have kids. What do you think is important for them to do, especially with their daughters?
I think communication is the key in nearly everything, really. Yeah. So, I mean, breakups of relationships is, again, perfectly normal. There's just a certain way you could go about it that's a lot more healthy and, you know, conducive to your kids' mental health growing up. So maybe not cheat. That's always a good idea. Maybe it's an option. Yeah. But I mean,
I'm trying to find answers for those knobheads out there that are in the same boat as me. I'm not cheating, but what I mean is, you know, for lads that have done these things that have created this damage. You
talk.
Talk.
Honestly, just talk. I mean, my dad.
You know, if he
is never going to be that way. He's a man's man. He doesn't open up. Yeah.
But if he had sat you down and said, look, I haven't chose someone else over you. You know, it's not, you know, I love you, and, you know, I will always be your dad, and nothing will ever change. It could have made a big impact for you.
I think so. And a while ago, while I was still drinking, I did visit him and sort of forced that kind of conversation out of him. As an adult, I was ready to be able to talk about it, and we cleared the air, and he explained his side of it and his point of view, and it all makes sense, and like, I've forgiven him completely. So, like I say, the power of talking and explaining your own point of view is huge.
I think it's, before we carry on, I find it so interesting, this whole parenting thing, because like, we're parents, right, as well. But we're parents, but actually we're still children in our minds, isn't it? It's weird.
Why are we in charge of anyone?
Yeah, it's very strange. And like, I often think to myself, you know, my mum, bless her, she's had a hard life and she's made mistakes, just like I'm making mistakes now, but you know,
parents are people.
That's the thing. When I look at my mum, you know, your mum and dad, you just see them as your mum and dad. You forget that they were like just normal, average, everyday people
doing the best they can.
Dealing
like
with
we all are.
Dealing with relationships that are falling apart. I mean, there's nothing worse than being in a relationship where you've got kids and it's not working. I mean, it's horrible. So yeah, I think out there as adults, we do need to cut our parents a little bit more slack.
Yeah, definitely.
But try and talk.
Yeah.
So where did this go then? Talk me through what happened next. So how did your journey continue from that first time that you found drink?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it was just a very unhealthy relationship all the way. So if I was drinking, as we know, like you have one, it's never enough. So I'd always just drink to get as drunk as possible. And for many years, it was fun. You know, I'd be drinking, drugging, clubbing. But there were many different stages over my life. Weed was a big one for quite a while. And that was mainly because, you know, it gave me the great excuse to be lazy and do very little. But I also felt like I wasn't quite normal if I wasn't stoned or on something. So my normal state, I didn't like it. I was very uncomfortable in my own skin because I wasn't who I wanted to be. I sort of always knew who I wanted to be and who was sort of in there somewhere, but I didn't know how to get there. And so I was always trying to just hide from it and run from what I actually was at the time.
That's so interesting. It's like we have a perception of what we should be, and if we don't meet that criteria in our mind, we're like, well, okay, well, I'm just going to get smashed then.
Yeah. Like, don't want to know that one.
Yeah.
And then so if we fast forward a while, what was it, nearly 10 years ago now, my mum got sick and passed away within like 8 months.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it just catapulted my drinking to just the absolute next level. I could not cope with it. I had no coping strategies whatsoever because I'd never learned any or put any in place. My only coping strategy was to just get out of my head. And so to try and deal with that.
It's funny you say that, like that saying, listen to the words, get out of my head.
Yeah.
And it's like, that phrase is coined, like for us, do you want to get out of your head?
Yeah.
Isn't it mad? I've just realised that. The phrase is coined, like, do you want to get out of your head? Like, should we get out of our head on this? But I never realised what it actually meant. It actually means, like, in the context that you've used it, you wanted to get out of your head.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be somewhere else, someone else, just did not want to be going through what I was going through.
What did she pass of?
Bowel cancer.
And was it a difficult journey? Was you with her through that journey?
Yeah, kind of. So she lived in Swansea, so it was a 4-hour trip away, and I had a young son at the time. He was like 4, I think, when she was 3. He'd only just started school, so yeah, it must have been 4 when she was diagnosed. So it was really hard. So when I was working full time, I was at uni, I was doing all sorts. So trying to get up and see her as often as I could, but also the drinking was just getting completely out of control, and I was just doing really stupid stuff. But I was with her when she passed and everything, and it just I don't like to regret anything, but if I hadn't been drinking, that whole time could have been very different.
Yeah, I can tell that's got a bit difficult for you, isn't it? Yeah, I can tell. I can tell.
But then if it hadn't been the way it was, I wouldn't be where I am now, because I think if I hadn't had that big thing to catapult me into such bad drinking, I think I would have just stayed on that sort of
plateau that you thought was acceptable.
Yeah, because it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, especially the friends I had, it was just normal.
Yeah.
To get as drunk as possible all the time.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like, it's the biggest thing that I've learned is that, like, fuck, man, like, you can go through your life drinking hard when things get a bit stressful, right? And you know, that's all well and good, your coping strategy with life being drinking drugs, you know, until something really bad happens.
Exactly.
And then when something really bad happens, it can fucking kill you. Yeah. And it's like, you know, so you know,
end up not coping at all.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine at the moment that's struggling with drinking drugs, and one of his parents is same thing on his way out, and worries me a little bit about how, you know, how that's going to affect his drinking. But how long did that go on for? That really sort of and talk to me just to get context, if you don't mind. How bad was the drinking? What was your drinking like?
So, yeah, the really bad stuff was about 2 years, and it's what we call 24-hour drinker. So if I was awake, I was drinking. And it got to the stage where I wouldn't be able to... I was never sleeping. I would pass out because I'd drink enough to pass out because I hated being awake. And I'd go to bed and I'd make sure I'd have a bottle of wine or something next to the bed because I knew that halfway through the night or in 2-3 hours I'd wake up and I was at the point where I was just always in some form of withdrawal, like the physical shakes and feeling absolutely awful and wanting to go back to sleep. So the only way to do it would be to, neck more and try and pass out a little bit.
Fucking hell. And drugs?
Yeah, there was cocaine and stuff at the time. Not every day, but yeah,
it was
wasn't
part
good.
of it.
It was, unfortunately. Yeah, not
Worst
good.
thing for fucking.
Well,
that's what I was like when my father passed. Like, I always look back and I think, how did I survive that? It's mad. I can remember sitting in a stairwell just on my own during the days. You know what I mean? When everyone else just think just thinking. And the weird thing about it is you don't, at the time, you don't think that it's bad. You think, I just need this just because I can't be bothered. I just need this, I
mean, I hated myself and what I was doing, but I didn't see that the thought of having to stop it all and everything that would ensue after that. I just thought, no, I'll just have another bottle. It's way easier. That's the quickest, easiest option.
What do you mean, like the thought of tidying your life up was too much?
Yeah, and you just think, well, I was just thinking, but it's all so bad. Like, how on earth do you even start repairing it and making it better?
So how did you?
I went to AA. That got me sober.
How did that conversation start? Did someone say to you?
No, I was just.
Was there a
Googling.
series of events though, like rock bottoms were like, because like for me and for many other people, it's like scary stuff starts happening. Bad decision making, or some scary happens, and you're like.
Yeah, there was one night where my brother was texting me from holiday, showing me his happy pictures, and I was like, oh, that looks lovely, that's great, hope you have a great time. And then the next message was, please promise me you'll look after my son. And in his head, just alarm bells, like, whoa, not the right text message. So he tried calling me, I wouldn't answer, so he phoned my stepdad who lives near me, and this was like 2 a.m, and so I got a stepdad banging on the door, and it was good because like that text message did mean what he thought it meant, that I was definitely considering, ending things, because it just
thinking about it.
I was, and I was just like, this is just horrendous. Like, I can't keep doing this. It's not fair on my son. It's it's just awful. Like, it just needs to end. And as I said, the thought of trying to repair it all and fix it all, I just couldn't even see that as an option. So again, to me, the easiest option at that time was to end it. But my stepdad came round and stayed with me for I think 3-4 days, and because he refused to get me any alcohol or whatever, I ended up going through a withdrawal and everything.
What did he sort of come in and say, you're not leaving and I'm staying?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
And he looked after my son and everything, and I just stayed in bed. I mean, I physically wasn't able to do anything. I was in a horrendous way.
It's hard for you, isn't it? And looking back, and especially because you was a mum, right?
Yeah, and I think especially as a single mum as well, people forget the amount of like responsibility as a single parent there
it's non-stop, right?
It's
just
like every single decision, every single responsibility, everything, like sole breadwinner, the whole lot is on your shoulders. And then to look at it, like I managed to thankfully keep him clean, fed, in school. But apart from that, everything else just fell apart completely. And to think you're failing at your most important role in life is just horrendous.
Yeah, I know you was a little bit concerned chatting about that because people can be quite judgmental, but like we said outside, that's the truth. That's the face of addiction, There's going to be, unfortunately, many people out there that don't even think that they have an issue with drinking drugs that are parenting. Because
I didn't. Before it all went really bad, I thought I was just a normal drinker, even though I was a heavy drinker. Because my friends were doing it too, I thought, well, that is just how everybody socialises, and just everyone has a bottle of wine a night, right? Like, it's dinner time, or as you said the other day, like, if you're happy, I'll celebrate. And if you're sad, I'll commiserate. And if you're stressed, like, okay, it's stress relief. There was always some reason, some excuse why it's acceptable to get drunk.
Yeah. It's like my mate, he's in my mind today because I was speaking to him this morning, and he was like, he was like, yeah, I just need to cut it down. You know, I just need to cut it down. And I was just like, that's not how we drink.
No.
You know, and I don't know how he felt about that, but I mean, that isn't how we drink, is it? I mean,
No.
if we're celebrating, or like you say, we're down and we're stressed, or we're bored, or you know, we're at the airport.
They're excuses.
Yeah, and
You don't need 'em.
But
We're
our
gonna drink
drinking
anyway.
Yeah, but the funny thing about it is our drink doesn't change. You know, at a wedding, or a funeral, or a christening,
Kids party.
kids party. Yeah,
Stressful at a kids party.
Yeah.
You got to have a few bottles. Right?
yeah. It doesn't change, does it? It's the same. So talk me through what happened next, man. So he stayed with you, kept, you know, you kind of you had 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And was that it? You never drank since?
No, but it didn't go back up to the bad levels, and I'd got myself into AA meetings and stuff, and was just starting to learn everything that they preach, teach, whatever way you want to look at it.
Yeah.
And I hated it at first. I really hated the fact I even had to be there. I was really angry that I even had to be in that room with these people doing this stuff and like doing their little chants and the mantras, and I just thought, you know, why am I here? But I kept going because I knew I needed to be there. And for the first couple of months I was still drinking, just not as heavily. And I just kept looking at all the guys and girls that had been there like 25, 30 years, still going, still sober. And I just thought, I absolutely want what you've got. Like, I will just sit here and listen to you and watch you, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I just need to get out of the hole that I'm in. And with each day, each week that went by, it got a little bit easier, and there was like a little glimmer of hope coming in.
And then when did you have your last drink?
The last drink was the 6th of December 2015.
And drugs?
Oh yeah, before that, a couple of weeks before that. I don't have a date on that because I didn't consider myself addicted to drugs.
So 2016?
15.
15.
Yeah, so
15.
I'll be 8 years sober this December.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
8 years. So, wow. How do you stay sober? I mean, and since you've been sober, has anything happened in your life that has nearly sent you back?
Only recently, actually, and it really, really knocked me for 6. I haven't ever drunk again. I've never wanted to. It's never even been a consideration, which I thank everything for. But yeah, I thought I was mentally really strong and level, and that could cope with pretty much anything because I'd learned so many different strategies along the years, and I thought I was level and okay. And then this year in particular has just been really hard. Like, I lost my job earlier this year.
Yeah.
And I haven't found a new one yet, and like, financially took a massive hit, and have found it really hard, and again started going into that mental space of feeling like a failure.
Yeah.
In life as in general, but mainly as a mother. I felt like I wasn't, providing. I felt like I wasn't now the sole breadwinner. I wasn't a breadwinner whatsoever. I felt like I've just sent my son on his school trip, but it was a struggle just to scrape all that money together. And every time he asked for, a takeaway, I'm like, panic, like, oh my God, I can't even afford that these days. I felt like an absolute failure, loser, pathetic, like all those words, and they just kept coming at me all day, every day. So it got bad in August. He went away for a bit, and once again I found myself at the point where I was going to kill myself.
Oh my God.
It was awful. Like, it was bad. I mean, I'd written all the letters, they were enveloped and sealed and whatever, and I'd, when they tell you, like, if you're terminal, like, get your affairs in order, I'd done that. I'd sorted out everything that needed sorting out, ready to just, go. And like, I'd convinced myself it was the right thing to do for my son. I thought, I'm now no longer able to look after you and care for you in the way that you need and deserve. So it'll be better if...
It's okay if you're upset.
I really convinced myself, like, I've achieved all I need to in life. I'm done. I thought, right, that's it. Let's exit now rather than make things any worse, Yeah. I didn't drink, though.
I was going to say that's yeah, and it's like, listen, you've obviously got, you know, strategies in place, like you said before, to cope, and you leaned on them, but they didn't work for you.
No, for the 7 years I'd been making myself into the person I'd always wanted to be. I was finally so happy with who I was, and then this past year I just felt like I'd completely veered off that path and was no longer the person that I'd been so proud of and loved, and I did not love myself at that time at all. And I was really shocked, because I would say it was an absolute rock bottom, and it had never occurred to me that as a sober person you'd hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know, it just hadn't occurred to me that that was a thing at all. And although I never believed, like, you don't always just go up, do you? Life is always like that, but I never thought I'd be back down there.
You'd feel how low you did when you...
Yeah, I didn't think
like,
it was
after
possible.
all that work.
Yeah, I thought after my mum's passed, and I thought that's
It's
the saddest I'll ever be. I'll never feel anywhere near that whatsoever. And then, yeah, I honestly thought it was just the best thing, just to...
Yeah, well, that's what happened. That's what people, everyone that's considered, or, you know, I've been there, and it's the craziest thought, man. I mean, you look at life now, you look at your son now, and but it's because you're having mental health problems.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. You know, there's no, even you talking to me now, I can tell you're kind of saying it in a way where you're kind of like, I can't believe I thinking that, like, you know, and like, how wrong could I be that, you know, that it'd be better off for my son, and you feel such guilt and shame, right?
But your mind convinces you.
But because you've got mental health problems, right? And like, as addicts, you know, and whatever else we're dealing with, with childhood trauma and every emotional immaturity, or whatever you want to call it, whatever's going on with me, you, with everyone out there, when life gets really, really hard, and I think it all comes down to one thing, and it's like, suddenly, I don't want to be me, and like, like, suddenly, like, because, you know, this is what everything that I talk about on here seems to come back to, not being happy within yourself. It's like all like, we try and escape ourselves, right? And then, but we learn. I had
no escape at that time.
Yeah, and you had no escape, but we learn through our sobriety to sit with ourselves, right? This is what I'm learning. And like you said, you know, you get comfy with yourself. Like right now, you know, I done a video the other day where, after my run on Sunday, yesterday morning, and I was just sitting there looking at the water, and I was like, oh man, I'm one of these spiritual now where I'm just like, I'm so happy, you know what I mean? But I was sitting there, I had the endorphins from the run, but I mean, I was sitting there and I was like, man, my life is pretty peaceful, you know, and it was so poignant on a Sunday as well. But as soon as like something negative happens, and it's like, and then you're like, oh no, actually, not perfect. Oh, and then you're like, I can't sit with myself. I normally would go, oh, do you know what? Drink, sniff, whatever. So you didn't have your coping strategy. So please don't beat yourself up too much about that. But you've got to be aware that, you know, when you feel yourself, have you felt yourself since going back there, or has it been a steady upwards? And how did you get yourself out of that? What was it that really pulled you through that?
I sort of swallowed my pride and asked somebody for a loan, just to sort of cover me for a little bit.
It was really financial pressure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I felt like I felt like just a failure, that I couldn't provide, or I wasn't doing what I'm supposed to do. And so I sent off this text message, and I thought, if they say yes, we live to do another day, and if they say no, we do not. So thankfully,
who was
they
that?
said yes.
If you don't mind me asking.
My uncle. He doesn't know that.
Well, saved your life.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but no, I wouldn't say it's been all up. Like, I've had little dips back down, but then I remind myself, you know how, like, you were even saying it the other day, like, before you go for a drink or anything, you fast forward it to get to that. These days, I now rewind back to that moment where,
if you let your mind go.
Yeah, I was like, right, if we go again, we're laying out those goodbye notes once again and getting it all ready. Like, we're not going back there. Like, no. So I have to now just bolster myself back up. And as soon as those bad thoughts start coming in, it's like you got two bits. I've always thought of it as like you got two minds. One is you, and one is something else, just giving you all the negative crap.
I call it the imp.
The imp.
The imp's always chatting her away, and
There we go.
sometimes
Okay, we'll call it the imp
he's
from now on.
the imp of the perverse.
Yeah. And he's
Yeah.
like, so as soon as he starts coming in now, I'm like, no, and I, swat him away and start remembering the good stuff and saying good things to myself instead. Even if I don't feel it at that particular point, I'd still rather say that to myself than listen to that nonsense.
And that's how you kind of self-talk, yeah?
Yeah. And that's how I got through like the 7 years. And I went through that phase where I just wasn't able to do that. Like my mind wasn't strong enough to be able to combat the imp.
The imp. John, what does your imp say to you?
So my imp is like perpetually kind of, I guess, like catastrophizing. It's almost like I'm responsible for everything. It's kind of more in like an obsessive compulsive anxiety way. So it's constantly trying to like make me responsible for things that are completely out of my control, and that might be in like a weird like ritual sense.
What, like conflicts in the Middle East and stuff like that?
Literally, yeah. Well, I have some saying that, but yeah, literally, like all kinds of stuff all the time, or like just worrying about like protecting people, almost in like a magical thinking way. But it's like an endless stream. It's like association. I think it's the same part of like the comedy brain that makes you have association between like different concepts that you can link together to try and be funny.
Yeah.
It's that, but it's for disaster, and it's just like an endless like. You just want to smash your head against the wall before it stops. But yeah, so I mean, it's not a depressive one, but it's definitely like an anxious one.
Yeah, this is the most
Awful.
Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah. That's him constantly. No, but to me, the most important thing and the most powerful thing is, managing your mindset. It really is.
Because you can't get away from yourself.
No.
And I think that's one of the main issues we all have, is that you're stuck with this thing because you're with yourself all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's why you have to like yourself.
Yeah, it's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'll give you an example. So, like John, he's quite shy. He's not shy. I'd say that is it an introvert? Not an introvert. No, 'cause you're an extrovert. But what I mean is he's reserved. He's not like, he don't want to be like crazy, wild center of attention. He's like caring, but
I'm polite.
He's polite, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is he's upper class.
Okay.
But no, but my point of this being is, me and John have both been at gigs before where, his mindset, my mindset has been, I can't wait for this gig and I'm going to smash.
Yeah, you're excited and ready to go. You're like,
yeah, I can't wait. And he's like, oh, I'm not sure. And then, I've gone on and I've smashed it, and he's gone on and he's done all right. But like, rewind to Friday. No, I'm just giving you an example. Rewind to Friday. Rewind to Friday. He had a really busy. He was running the comedy night, and I could see this zen in him, where he was like quietly confident. You didn't have that nervous energy you'd normally have. And he went on, and he's the best comic of the whole night. He smashed it. I folded. And honestly, we have ups and downs, and my head was gone. I was completely unsure of that's what it is, isn't it?
Sure.
It's mindset.
Yeah.
I was completely unsure of my ability, and it come through into and it was because, the prep or whatever, but John somehow had managed to get his mind in a zenful place. And it goes to show
I think it's because I was so busy up until the point I couldn't even have time to think.
Yeah.
Like sorting out the thing.
Yeah. But there was more to that. You were excited.
Yeah, I was looking.
It was like a positive process for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that if he could learn how to trick himself to do that, and I could learn how to trick myself, which is all part of life. It's with everything, with dating, with performing, with your job. If you can trick your mind, if you can learn that process to trick your mind into a zenful state, not as I'm using the word zen, but into like a positive state.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess you're talking about when we talk about like, self-talk, right?
Yeah.
And realizing, and because when you got to that really dark, low place where you were writing the letters and stuff like that, you were listening to the voice as if it was you.
Yeah.
The voice was speaking
over completely.
Yeah, the voice was speaking truth, right?
Mm-hmm. And I was following it. I was like, yeah, we're doing the right thing here. We've made the right decision. Yeah.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to people that are going down that road with that voice?
It's hard. I don't know. I wish I could be more useful. At that particular time, I didn't talk to anybody at all. Like,
that's the key, innit?
Nobody knew, and nobody still knows. So when they watch this, they're going to be like, what the hell? I didn't know any of that. And I didn't tell anybody. So if I ever spoke to anyone back then, I was still just my happy, So again, as I was saying at the beginning, communication, talking, absolutely key. And I've told a few people since then, like, oh, I was going through a bad patch, and they're all like, well, you should talk, you should open up and like just admit you're going through stuff.
So simple, but
It's
we don't do it.
I don't, because I grew up lonely and alone, as I told you. I've raised my son the whole way on my own. I've been single like pretty much my whole life. I'm not used to opening up to anyone. I don't have anyone to open up in that way, you know. Everyone just expects me just to get on with it, because I do just get on with it and do it all.
Was AA a place where you could talk and open up?
Yes.
That is exactly what that
Good
is.
question. Yes, actually. Yeah. Funnily enough, like the stuff you hear in there is crazy. And it's the sort of place where you wouldn't hear those stories anywhere else, because you rely on the anonymity of it
Yeah.
in order to feel secure enough
To
be
open
able
up.
to open up. You know, addicts, we've all done some awful,
Dark things.
embarrassing, horrible stuff, and to be able to just sit there and say it to people,
Unjudging. Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I was able to open up there, actually, back in August while I was going through that
You weren't
phase.
doing your meetings, were you?
I hadn't been in about 4 years, actually. Like, they stopped having a useful effect on me, but I randomly found myself at a meeting during that time. And you know, just sometimes you just go through motions. You don't know how you ended up somewhere where you are. And I was in this meeting and I was just looking around like, what am I doing here? I haven't been to a meeting in like 4 years, but I sat down and I did the chants and I, you know, did all the sayings, and it was just really familiar and nice, actually, to be just welcomed in.
And part of something.
Yeah, and something so
Did
that
you
I
share?
knew had helped me. I did. Yeah, I did, actually. I said, I'm going through a really tough time and I'm not quite sure what's going to be the outcome. And, you know, it was nice, actually. So I would recommend AA. I know you didn't use it. I've never done rehab or anything like
No,
that.
I did.
but we
I've
all come to it.
I've
in
been
our
to the
own
meeting.
ways.
I go to the meetings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I go to the meetings on and off. I can't. I just with life, it's very difficult for me to commit. But
But you don't need to. That's the beauty
yeah,
of it, really.
and I've been encouraged by some people to do it, because I'll be honest with you, I just didn't have the I you know what I mean. My ego was like, I don't need that. I'm doing it on my own.
Yes.
And it wasn't till I went where I was like, oh God, it was, you know. And also what sticks with you is you understand. I mean, this is kind of like meetings in a way, but what stuck with me when I started doing the meetings was coming out of it, and it actually made me a little bit more like, oh, look, I'm just going to tell you this is how I'm feeling at the moment. In fact, Shelley kind of, it does her head in a little bit, because, you know, I express my feelings to her about everything.
Yeah.
You know, even down to like, if she's like, look, you haven't taken the bins out, I'm like, it's just the tone. It's like, she's like, mate, just take the bins out. But before we finish up, is there anything you want to add or anything? But I just want to say, first of all, man, like, you know, Anna, the beautiful thing about this is, to us, we think what we've been through is nothing, right?
Yeah.
We do. We think what we've been through is nothing,
It's just
right?
life.
It's just like, but unfortunately, all these podcasts normally, they're all like Hollywood, or not Hollywood, but, you know, they're all like Z-listers or A-listers, and they're all like, and all of their journeys is basically so much better than everyone else's, because they've done TV work or film work or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the truth of it is, their journey is absolutely no different to someone like yours, someone like mine, and other people out there. But we can be made to feel like our journey, like, you know, what we've been through, we shouldn't be feeling suicidal, we shouldn't be feeling as down, and we shouldn't be as proud as we are, you know, of it. But the pure fact that you come on and you shared, one, thank you, but two, it should really sort of, you know, when you go away from me, you should really just sort of have a think and just think, wow, I managed to stop the drinking. And not just that when you really hit that rock bottom, which must have been so familiar to when your mum passed, so it must have brought so much back to you, that pain must have been so, you know,
It was intense.
and it must have reminded you of your mum and that she wasn't there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to not drink through that, and then to come out and then to share it, it's just commendable. And thank you, man.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And
But there is another thing I wanted to speak about today. So after I got sober, my son was still about 6 or 7, and at the time he was like quite angry a lot, having a lot of outbursts and tantrums and whatever. And a lot of people like to say, oh, does he have this? Does he have that? And blah, blah, blah. And then I realised one day that he doesn't have anything wrong with him whatsoever. He's simply acting the way that he's been taught to act from my horrible, erratic, alcoholic behaviour. And so I thought, do you know what? Like, he does not need to go through life this way simply because that's how I've shown him so far. So I realised, like, he wasn't the problem. I was the problem. So I needed to change myself in order to help him change. So I was never used to talking or expressing my feelings or any of that. AA helped me a lot to learn how to do that. But I thought, in order to try and teach him how to cope with emotions and recognise them and get through it all, I needed to learn it first so I could help him. So I went through therapy. I put him in therapy. We went to like couple therapy together and did stuff.
That's brilliant.
And so through years, we both learned how to sort of understand emotions, process them, come through them. Like, we talk.
You must be really close now.
We're very close.
And does he tell you when he's feeling down and sad? And
yeah,
stuff?
definitely. And if he doesn't say it, because we're so close, I look at him, I'm like, what's up? He's like, oh, how do you always know? I'm like, well, just tell me, come on. And he knows he can tell me anything. I know I can tell him anything. And it's lovely now. He's not that horrible, angry child anymore. He's very emotionally intelligent. And I think that's a big, big thing with men especially.
And changing the narrative, changing the landscape that's just continuing to happen.
Exactly. And I've taught him that even though he's a boy, a man, you don't need to be quiet. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to open up. There's certain ways of, just discussing things that doesn't need to make it feel all uncomfortable and weird. So hopefully he's going to grow as a man able to express his feelings.
Yeah.
Even in our difficult society these days.
Yeah, I think you're back. I think that message at the end, I'm glad you put that in, because I can tell that you were like, I'll come and share my story, but I'm saying what needs to change.
That was the main bit I wanted to say. I was like, if I forget that, I'll kick myself.
Because basically what you're saying is
communication, talking.
Yeah.
It is key to everything. We're society, like, we're social beings. So in order to be social, you need to open up. You need to talk. Like,
it's easier to teach children how to deal with their emotions than fix broken adults.
Absolutely. Like, if I was trying to do it to him now, where he's 14, I'd probably get absolutely nowhere. He'd just tell me to F off. But because he was young when we started, and because I wasn't just telling him what to do and how to be, I showed him by example, and we did it together. Yeah.
There's so much about parenting that's so scary. Yeah. And like, I'm very much aware now that how me getting erratic, like me getting angry and shouting at the kids, the two girls, that ain't because of their behaviour. That's because of my mood.
Exactly.
It 100% is.
You're not.
Yeah, I'm not. Because really, if they're like winding each other up and stuff like that, I shouldn't be the one that's going, oh my God.
And how's that going to help?
Stop. Yeah, that's because I've lost my because normally the right way to be doing it is to like stop them, like, and talk to them, right?
Yeah.
And
explain.
you can't always do that, but I guarantee you, every time I lose my it's because I'm trying to do something else while I'm looking after them. I'm either on my phone or I'm doing something else, and I'm kind of tuned in. I'm kind of tuned in with it. But what I'm also tuned in with now is that's how sometimes they react. Come on, guys. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. So it's exactly what you're saying.
They mirror what they see.
And I'm
you're the role model.
Yeah, and I feel so lucky. I think it's one of the things that really grants me the happiness that's sitting with me at the moment is that I'm in tune with, because I'm sober, I'm in tune with my moods and my behaviours. Yeah. So like, I literally, like on Sunday, I was like, right, today is going to be a lovely day. And I was like, I'm not going to let them wind me up. Every time something happens, I'm going to try and do, it doesn't always work, but those moments where you're thinking about it is that's the positive stuff, right?
Exactly.
It's the positive stuff. So,
yeah.
And when they're a little bit older, I guess, it would be talk, let's talk more and talk. The difficult thing is with the girls and parenting is, they get annoyed when you ask them stuff, don't they? I even just ask them what they've done at school, and they're just like,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
My son likes it.
yeah. Well, maybe it's just me.
It might just be the dynamic. Like there's just me and him.
Yeah.
So he's got nobody else asking him how his day was.
I'm always
he likes it if I ask how his day is.
Yeah, I'm
you know?
always asking them when they're trying to do something else. But
Oh well. Yeah.
But no, parenting's a massive one for me.
Also, I
man.
don't have girls. I think girls are a different animal, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know.
I think in general this might be sexist, but they're crazy.
Yeah, they're harder. My brother's got 2 girls, and the difference is massive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, me and him, we get on great, and I've always been conscious of the fact that there's no man around. So I've always tried to include a lot of masculine activities and do all that, like we play fight and all sorts, like just so he doesn't completely miss out on that side of stuff.
Son, punch me. Yeah.
He does. He loves it.
But I think it, there is a thin line, like, because I know, like, a lot of male role models that are quite famous in the industry and stuff like that. I won't name any names. They can sometimes be like, a man should be a man and a man should do.
What's a man?
Yeah, but like also with like. You don't have to be, I'm an emotional blubbering wreck. I don't mind. I'm in touch with all the different sides, man. I've got about 30 sides but, as men, sometimes the thought of being vulnerable and talking about your emotions, it can come across like you're asking them to be like a woman, right? Or to be like a sissy.
Okay.
So I think the communication is always key, especially with teenage, like younger lads and stuff like that, where it's just like you said a minute ago, which I thought was quite good, is there's ways you can communicate. Just talk, like, let's just have it out. And like with your mates or with people, like lads can just be like, look, what's up, or just talk. The way that you can approach it doesn't, I think if you approach some boys and some men with like, listen, it's really important to be in touch with your emotions and just let it out, and if you're gonna cry, you're gonna get it can just be
I try to keep it just as relaxed and normal as possible. I don't like to make a big deal
come on, what's going on today, what's up, I can see it on your face,
basically. And a simple easy trick, right, is just to not look at each other. So if you're in the car, that's a lot easier because you're side by side. Or if I'm like, I don't know, making a cup of tea, so I'm not looking at him, and that's when you ask. It's a really simple psychological trick, but just not having to look at each other.
It's not as intimidating to open up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that.
Keep your voice all calm and normal. You just make it a conversation. Like, come on then, what's up?
Okay, that's how me and the wife communicate all the time.
Not looking at each other.
No. Anna, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
And yeah, man, just continue on your journey and reach out to me if you ever get low again.
Yeah.
Don't ever let yourself get there. And I'm sure everyone's going to be in the comments saying how wonderful this chat was. And there was a lot in there, man. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'll bump into you a few more times.
I'm sure. Actually, we're at the National Social Media Award on Wednesday.
Yes.
So we'll see you there.
Excellent.
John, anything to add before we go, me old tiger?
Yeah, that was a great conversation. There's a unique perspective you had. So obviously from like drinking and then the kind of just the mental health stuff outside of the drinking, and yeah, it's just really inspiring that you got through it a couple of times, and yeah, everything seems to be like in a good place now, and obviously life's still difficult at times, but yeah, it's inspiring, so thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
I love that. Yeah. And if you want to reach out to Anna, we'll whack her Instagram up on here, pop that on there so you can check that out. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for joining us for another episode of Menace to Sobriety. We've got a cool little community, a little crew. I know that there's about 20,000 of you that are listening each week, so I just wanted to say to you guys, thank you. Please share the podcast to anyone you think could use it. And yeah, in the comments on YouTube, just hit me up, man. Just give us some feedback and I'll try and reply to as many people as possible, and let me know if you like the direction the podcast is going in, and because this is our baby, man, and we're steering the ship together, and ultimately we're out here trying to keep the conversation going, connect and help as many people as possible. I'm Dan, that's John, that's Anna, and this has been Menace to Sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, we are going to take the Menace to Sobriety to the live stage, and we need a live studio audience to interact with us, to come along, listen, laugh and learn everything about sobriety, mental health, well-being, and just come along for a night out with like-minded people. We are going to be going live on the 30th of August, 27th of September, 25th of October and the 29th of November. That's one a month. Get your tickets now. Come down, meet the team and have some fun. Menace to Sobriety Live, coming soon. Oh yes, and don't forget, if you want to come and see me live and meet me, I'm going on tour. The Daniel O'Reilly Out of Character full UK tour kicks off in January 2024, and tickets are on sale right now. I'm going to try and get out and meet as many of you as possible, and of course, I'm going to be bringing the laughs all over the UK. There's 23 dates right now, and I'm adding more all the time. Hit the link in the bio and get your tickets now and come have some fun. If you're going through a tough time at the moment, please don't suffer in silence. Feel free to pick up the phone and contact any of these helplines. I personally, myself, at one of my darkest points, contacted the Samaritans, and it completely changed my outlook and got me out of a really deep, dark place. A problem shared really is a problem halved. So if you don't feel confident talking to those around you, check out any of these organisations and give them a call. This is my Facebook group. Just simply search on Facebook, Men and Their Emotions. It's for men only, but once you're in there, you can talk anonymously about your problems and help others and just feel a little bit of community. So come join the conversation, Men and Their Emotions, on Facebook. Thanks for watching.
Menace to sobriety. Just a menace.